Good evening and welcome to another in the series, Why I Write. What a wonderful experience we have every time we sit together like this, across from our screens. Maybe you're watching us on the phone. We have this wonderful experience to meet with yet another creative mind. And this evening is no different. My name is 𝗪𝗛 Oliver, and I'm your host for these series of conversations as we tap into the creative minds of our time and see how we can be inspired by their work, and we can learn from their examples, and we can get to enjoy the richness of their creative productions. This evening, we speak with a gentleman who has authored, literally, in my estimation, hundreds of titles. But when I went on the website for Geoffrey, my fingers got tired counting the amount of books that he has authored and he has available for us to delve into and to even experience more of our lives in this time. Please put your hands together for me and welcome to our platform of Why I Write, Geoffrey Philp. Hi, Geoffrey. Welcome.
Greetings.
Welcome to another in the series, Why I Write. It's such a great experience to have you here already. We know it's going to be rich and exciting. How are you doing, Geoffrey? How has your week been? I know it's
it's been hectic, because I just finished the launch of the book of poems Archipelagos, and I've been doing a series of interviews. So it's just it's a good hectic. It's a good hectic.
And also, we're going to talk about this later as our conversation unfolds. You have been at the helm of managing your blog on all things related to writing, Garveyism, awareness of our culture and our heritage and such the like. So we're going to be talking more about that, and we want to at least begin by letting our audience know you're going to see all the links in our drop down. Please subscribe and share.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
let us subscribe and share. Now, Geoffrey, you're currently residing in the United States of America, but you are a man of the Jamaican soil, raw born Jamaican. You can take the person from out of Jamaica, but you can't take Jamaica from out of,
No, you
How
can't.
did life start for you in Jamaica, Geoffrey?
Well, I was born in Kingston, and my mother was a teacher and my father was an accountant. And because my mother was a teacher, of course, she made me, I was reading from a long time. So when I started to go to school, the first school that I went to was 𝑐𝑯 Primary. That's up near Waterhouse and Olympic Way. And that's where I went to school until I was 10. And then at 10, I was ready to take the common entrance, but my mother she wanted me to go into with my own age group. So they held me back.
Young, let me tell you. You're
Right.
bright, but you're young. Yes.
So then I transferred to Mona Primary, and then I met up with people of my own age group, and I went to Mona Primary for 2 years, and then I took the common.
Mr. What's Good King?
Huh?
Mr. What's Good King?
Yes. Yes.
I went to Mona Primary too for 1 year.
Yes.
For the same reason.
And
took me out of school over there. Say I was too young to take common entrance. I go to 6th grade there with Miss Harrison.
All right. Done.
We are family.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. But you wouldn't remember it. But I remember Festus. Remember the strap?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard.
Festus was the strap that he kept. He kept inside.
Did you suffer from Mr. Festus?
Yes. So he had it in his mind. He had it in his mind that he was going to punish us if we didn't do our homework. By the boys was going to punish us by number one, applying Festus, and number two, sending you to go sit with the girls. Well, I tore up my homework because I was like a girl I had a crush on. So I tear up the homework and him send me, you had to walk all the way from the classroom up on the second floor, all the way down, take the stairs down, walk, go to his office. He had Festus hanging on the leather strap. Go up to there, take Festus off the hook, walk down again, climb the stairs, go up back, go in front of the class, pow, 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 pow. And then I'm go over there and go sit down beside her. And so that was how I got my first beating with Festus.
That's a wonderful anecdote. That's from Mona Primary, right there in the middle of Mona Heights, right in the backyard of the University of the West Indies.
Yes.
We saw the ridge of the Blue Mountains every day.
Yes, every day.
And we had that fantastic play yard right behind the building, almost leading towards the aqueduct.
Yes.
Where you could have run far down that dish and come back up.
In fact, it was because UWI was my stomping ground. That was where I saw my first dead body.
Oh my goodness.
No, because they used to keep they're not as strict, they're more strict now. But there was this building where they kept the bodies. And my so me and Paul walking through Dewey and everything else. And he says, I bet you can't climb up on that window. And I said, yeah, man, I can climb up on it. He said, all right. So I climb up on the window and look through the window, and right underneath the window was a dead body that they were using, cadavers, to teach a medical student.
Yes.
And it was like,
oh my goodness. I took you way back, right?
Yeah, man. It was like, so I dropped down and I said, oh, you couldn't do that to me, man. I was dead with laugh. Just
oh my goodness. School days, Jamaican school days. Back in the day, they were good days. They were good days. They were very good days when picnic and you had to respect the teacher.
Yes.
You do your work too.
Oh yeah. I mean, Mr. King and then for me it was Mrs. Pennycook.
I remember.
And Mrs. Pennycook. I mean, and then Mrs. Pennycook went to school with my father down in Manning's.
Oh, okay.
So by the minute I stepped inside her classroom, she looked at my name and she's like, Phil, your father is Sydney, Phil? Yeah. All right, I'm expecting good things from you. I'm like, all right. So then I graduated.
You from 𝑐 I'd pop you right in Miss Pennycook classroom.
And then I went to JC, and I played Manning Cup, and I scored how many goals? I scored five or six goals in one match against St. Catherine. I scored a hat trick. Wow. Yeah, and then another
football team too there at Jamaica College.
Yeah, and but the sad thing was the best goal ever scored, was I was playing left wing, and the guy was marking me hard. So I switched with Blakey. That's a big Blakey. So we did a run, and Blakey went left and I went right. And when I went right now, the ball came over to my chest. When I looked up, I saw the goalie was out of place. And from 40 yards out, I just licked the ball. goal. But then what happened was Baz Freckleton covered the next day. And my brother told me he had a thing about, he never really come to match and ask him friend him how the match go. Some friend tell him that Blakey scored the goal. And he wrote it, I never forget it. And young Blake scored a bomber from 40 yards out. And I was like, that was me. That was me. Anyway, you know. But I'll never forget the goal. It was one of those it was one of those moments when you know everything just opened up and you see everything. And I just beat that ball, you know, and I just right exactly where I placed it. So
Did you continue to play football after Jamaica College, or that was it for you while you turned to other endeavors?
no. In fact, well, we still up until the pandemic, we still played against. I played on the we play against here in Florida, St. George's College.
Wow.
You know, we have the True Blue tournament, which is you know, the JC Old Boys versus the St. George's Old Boys. And I played a couple of matches there, but I stopped. The reason, and on the over 40 team, though, on the over 40 team, but I stopped playing because a ball came over, you know, and try as I couldn't catch it. And when I was walking back, that rascal Dennis Jenkins said to me, "Why, Jeff, it looked like you need an Uber for catch that one."
Because I'm not good at ribbing you.
So that just end the whole football career right there.
Look, man, still go play a scrimmage every now and again.
No, because well, I saw Jenkins the last one we had here, and he wasn't playing either. Or maybe he played, but we were just talking, you know, and one of my good teammates that I played with in Jamaica, we had this football team we called the Bleachers, because we'd go partying all night, and then show up the next day, bleach out, but we still won every match. Wow. And that was how we couldn't think of a name for the football team, so we just called ourselves the Bleachers. And we played. And here was the thing. They had what they call the Albion Cup. And they thought that it was going to be just any team that won it 3 years in a row would get to keep the Albion Cup.
Right.
And this is from the start. So nobody ever thought that anybody would win it 3 years in a row. Well, we won it for the first 3 years in a row and crashed the whole thing. There's never been another cup since.
Wow. Look at that.
My good friend Slick Lawson, Richard Lawson, over in Tampa. He has the Albion Cup there in the yard.
Wow. Listen to me now, man. That is a fantastic story. I love the fact that you're able to balance your artistic side with your sporting side. That's one of the blessings about being a Jamaican. We were exposed to different endeavors and interests, and whatever ended up liking the most, we stuck to. So during your high school life, going to Jamaica College, one of the premier boys schools.
No.
The premier. You know what? You're gonna argue with everybody else. Yeah, the rest of them, you know how that goes. I'm not gonna get into that. But while you were there, did you see that literature was something that was bubbling up in your heart, in your mind, or it's something that came later on when you started to pursue studies to become a teacher?
Well, I started writing poetry because I fell in love with this girl next door. And so I thought that both of us were literature majors but I never thought of myself as a writer, because you know, the writers that I was exposed to were people like Dennis Scott, Mervyn Morris, Kamau Brathwaite, Edward Ball, Tony McNeil. These and they all attended the University of the West Indies. And to me, to be a writer, you have to, you have to be brilliant. You have to be as brilliant as these men. And I believed that for a very, very long time. But anyway, so I started off writing poems for this girl. And in fact, I
gave them to her.
Yeah, man.
How did she respond?
She liked them, but then after I was when I worked at Collector General for a while, I was held up twice, man. One time they put a gun right here, so a shotgun right here, and the other time they put a gun right here, and that was what made me leave Jamaica. My mother was like, them now gonna kill me, my son. So that was how I left Jamaica. And I always knew that long-term relationship, that is a lie. It's a lie you tell yourself, So so when I left Jamaica, everything crashed. Everything crashed.
Wow. And when you say everything crashed, you are referring to your own life or that relationship that you had started from your beautiful writings?
Well, I wouldn't call them beautiful, because when when I left Jamaica, I was so disgusted with myself. I burned every single. I still remember standing up in my backyard, throw kerosene on it, and just light up the whole thing.
Wow.
I was a passionate young man, How many exercise book?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, man, about 3 or 4 exercise books.
Full of poetry, you just
Yeah, man.
That's a pyro something. I can't remember.
Pyromaniac.
That's a pyro move. But
pyro something.
Pyro something. But the thing is, though, when you had that passion to, divorce yourself, because it's like you're ripping yourself apart from that which was within inside you. Did you ever think that so many years later, because this was what, back in 1979 for you?
Yes.
Here we are now in 2000, almost 29.
Yeah.
So years have left, and you never ever saw all of these this repertoire of work coming from you. And I hear what you said about the whole business of not considering even yourself to be a writer because of, yes, the quality of the writing folks, the authors that you are blessed to have in your presence. But look at it, as Miss Lou would have said, look upon the turnabout. Because Dennis Scott, even one of those that you admire his work, he was able to make commentary on your work as you blossomed as a writer. So having come from Jamaica, clearly you were working at Collector General for a minute, but as you came away from Jamaica, did you have questions in your mind? What do I do next? And writing is a way out, or the writing didn't start showing up and calling you to it until later? How did that process work for you?
Well, what happened was after I somewhere between leaving, no, I was still at JC. I was still at JC. And I kept showing Dennis poem. And finally I got one poem published in the Sunday Gleaner, and they paid me $8. I was like, all right, you're a big time writer now, cause Sunday Gleaner, And so I published there. I also published in the Caribbean Review, with John Hearn. I had a poem and a short story published there. And so by the time I left Jamaica, that was when I was determined. So in fact, when I applied, put in for my new passport, I put writer in there. And because I'd gotten over all of that other foolishness.
Right,
And,
right.
and
It's a journey. It's all a journey.
yeah, you know, and you know, it's part of the whole thing of, you know, what are the lies that you're gonna stop believing?
Which brings me to the next question. You are so heavily inspired by Marcus Garvey. You're so heavily inspired by writers who speak to our Pan-African experience. You're so deeply inspired. You get your motivation from Bob Marley. How did these start to filter in for you? And I know you pursued your teaching educational requirements, became a teacher. Where did you teach? What did you teach? Did you put your writing on the back burner when all of this was bubbling and, you know, being designed within you to come forth?
Well, my mother was a big time Bob Marley fan till him not up him head. Yeah. So we had, you know, I mean, we had 45 that simmered down and everything, you know. So I was listening to Bob from the time I know myself, you know. And in fact, the DJ for the 12 Tribes of Israel, Jamik, for Jalop music, lived right behind me. In fact, I heard 7 Miles of Black Starliners before it went to press, because Jamik lived right behind me. I hear this 7 miles, and I said, Jamik must get some new speaker. So I run around and I go, I'm walking into Jamik house. There was Fred Locks singing a cappella, 7 Miles of Black. I was like, all right. But it was also at Jalov that I met Bob a couple of times. One of the times was I was sitting in Jalov, you know, and Jalov was playing, Jamik was playing some music from before Natty Dread was cut. And so I'm sitting down there just listening, and I feel like a presence behind me. And I look around and there was Bob, you know, and Bob just went, say, all right, so go and listen. And then Jello put on a outtake of Natty Dread. And Bob look up and Bob say, but how you have that version? Me no even have that version there. And Jamik just went, you know, because apparently I think he was related to Judy Moore. His name was Michael Moore. He was another footballer with my brother, and they were the founders of Real Mona football team. So I in fact when I came to America in 1979, went back down for Christmas, and that was the last we played again. I was waiting at a bus stop, and I used to hang out with Seco Patterson, who was Bob's percussionist. And Seco saw me and Seco said, come play some ball down at Bob. So I jumped in his BMW and we drove down to Island House. So we started playing ball. It was me, Seco, and another dread. And it was Bob, Gilly, and Leghorn who was there. So the first game we played, and we beat them 6-4 or something like this. Bob said, come we could play another game. So I was like, all right, cool. So we play another game and then beat us 6-5. And Bob said, we not for come off. And Seiko said, no, man, we beat you the first game. We could play one more. So all right, we say, all right. I go make the mistake in the third game for salad bar. The man just cleaned me up. No, I am still 20, 21. Me jump up in a Bob chest. And when we realize, in the back of my head, we're going, you mad? Hey, Bob look for me, and I look for Bob. And Seiko coming and Seiko party and everything else. He was not Mr. One Love at that moment. So we go and play. And then we reach about, we tie about 3-3 or 3-4. And I look at my watch and I was like, boy, Bob, I have to leave, you know. I have to go catch a plane, you know, to go back to Miami. Never forget it. And Bob just put me on a way, like, never say a thing, you know, just.
Yeah.
That was the last big memory. The first real meeting though was Jallo was having a Bob Marley Day at the community center in Mona. And I was walking through and I saw Bob, you know, and I said, hello, Mr. Marley, thank you for, you know, the music that you've given. And Bob said, sit down, man, sit down. And I sit down there with him. I swear to you, Bob started to tell me things about my life.
What?
Yes. And I am there in shock. I'm like, how him know them thing here?
Wow.
I walked out, I got up, I walked out the park. I went to visit my friend, Martin Gutzma, live at 14 Violet Avenue. When I get over there, I said, Martin, you wouldn't believe who I just met. I just met Bob. And he was telling me about everything about my life. And he was like, so I'm telling you, and I swear to you, you see, I can't remember, so it was 14 Violet Avenue. I couldn't remember a thing because the shock. Like when he's telling me, like, I'm like, how you know them thing here? You know? So when I left Jamaica and I left that December, you know, and then the next December went back to see Dennis Scott play at the pantomime because I couldn't miss that, you know, and that was when that December I saw Bob playing a redemption song on JBC TV. And you know, I've been hearing rumors from a good friend of mine that I went to Miami-Dade with, and his name is Paul Fakuri. In fact, Paul Fakuri went on to be the producer of what's her name? From the Fugees, Lauryn Hill, the Miseducation. He went on to produce and was a bass player and on a couple of tracks on the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. So and played a couple of times with Bob. If I remember correctly, when Bob was in England, he helped out on a couple of tracks with Exodus.
So you were hearing rumors that he wasn't well.
Yeah. It was Paul. It was Paul who told me. It was Paul who told me.
Up to when he died in May of 19.
Right. Yes.
Wow. What a tremendous influence. What a tremendous experience that would have come to inform you now as a writer. No different from a songwriter, no different from a Bob Marley who wrote the songs he did. No different from the Marcus Garvey who wrote the essays that he did that literally changed Black politics and awareness here in the United States back in the 1920s.
Yes.
Here you are now, you know, the recipient of these golden nuggets, the attention of the world-renowned Bob Marley. You are getting all of this input from your mom playing the records before him turned dread to your playing with him down at Hope Road there. So, and you know, which is actually a few avenues down from where our family home is, right there on Hope Road. To the whole business of you coming away and being so touched by this man. Your mother being a teacher, your father being an accountant, out of the two professions, you decided to follow your mother into teaching. How did
Yes.
you make that choice and why? Why was that the most appealing profession for you?
Well, yeah, part of the whole thing is, as I said, for a very long time, even though I was, you know, braggadocious and put right on my passport and everything else, you know, the doubt still remained because I, you know, and if any new writer ever listens to this, this is the advice that I give to new writers. When you start off writing, here is your talent, right? Here's your talent, and here is your taste, right?
Mm.
And the two will never meet, right? Because your taste will always be greater than your talent.
Mm.
So I
Your
was
taste, your
so
taste. I just want to repeat that. I'm sorry.
right.
Taste will always be greater than your talent.
Yes.
I love it.
So when my talent was matching up to the kinds of writers that I admired, like
Mm.
Brathwaite, like Walcott, like Scott, like Tony McNeil, it was easy to get discouraged, you
Mm.
know. So it was one of those cases where, you know, if I can't do the thing I love, I might as well be close to it. So that was why I started to teach literature,
Mm.
you know.
It's an interesting life journey for you to have made such a choice. Instead of completely running away from it, you embraced it in a different way. And having done my higher studies in education, I now have come to learn even more that there is no greater way to learn than to become a teacher yourself.
Yes, but again, part you know, part, America had so convinced me that I would never be a writer that in fact I was on a PhD program to become a critic.
You know, that's an interesting story. Wow. How did
Yeah,
𝗪𝗪𝗬 convince you that you will never become a writer? And now you're going to become, so I'm not a writer? All right, I am going to become a critique of all y'all's work. Tell me about
right.
that mental struggle, that emotional, wrap-upness. What happened?
The amount of rejections that I was getting.
Mhm.
I mean, week after week, month after month, year after year. This is a couple of years. You know, I mean, I get published here, like in the Caribbean Writer, you know, da 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 da. And I was very grateful for those. But, you know, in your youth, you think, you know, you want to become big time writer. So it may sound away now, but I was kind of discounting my publications in the Caribbean Writer, you know. Um, so I was just, because every time I tried with American publications, I get rejected.
Yeah, hard time.
So I did my bachelor's at the University of Miami, and then I went on and I was doing my master's program, and I finished my master's, and I'd entered the PhD. I was about to enter, I should say, because I'd done way more credits than I needed, so I could easily transfer into the PhD program. And after a series of setbacks, including my mother's death, I dropped out. I just went, you know, And I went, okay, all right. So I started teaching. I started teaching at West Miami Middle School. Also, you know, there's a cute story. So I'm getting ready I'm getting ready to write a paper. It's summer, and I'm there sitting down trying to think of a thesis sentence, you know, for this paper that I'm writing on William Faulkner. And sometimes I'm very slow on the uptake, you know. So I'm there trying to think through and think through and think through. My wife comes in and she gives me this little box, you know, and she's present. So I'm there. So I take the box, okay, open up the box. See two little baby shoes inside. I look. Oh! So that was when I said, all right, well, you have to go work now. And that was how I ended up teaching at literature and drama at West Miami Middle School. And I taught there for 6 years. And then in 1991, I left there. There had been a hiring freeze. I thought I would have, from University of Miami, I thought I would have entered Miami-Dade College immediately. But there was a hiring freeze for about 6 years. So I taught English and drama, and again, drawing on my experience with Dennis, because Dennis taught English and drama at JC. So it's like if Dennis could do this, then, you know, and Dennis is one of the most brilliant men I've ever met. Then you can do this, Jeff. You know, so it was drawing on that example. You know, so I taught for 6 years there, and then I went to Miami-Dade, and I taught for 12 years there, and then I became a chairperson for another 13 years, and then after that I taught for 2 more years, and then I retired.
Right. How has all of these experiences shaped you as a writer? Because after you put out the first book, you put out your first book in what year was it again? You put out your first,
about 91.
Right, in 1991. You put out your first book, and it's like you haven't stopped since. How did all of these twists and turns shape?
Well, it's not like I never stopped. So I published this book called Uncle Obadiah and the Alien, and it's about an alien who crash lands in a Rastaman's ganja field, and the Bangarang start after that. And so I published that collection of short stories, and got it published, and it was going to be reviewed in World Literature Today. And I'm like, all right, big time now. The reviewer totally trashed Uncle Obadiah and the Alien. I remember for this one, I have no models, right? Nobody has ever written. It was the first, if not, it was one of the first, if not the first, Caribbean sci-fi stories, right?
And the plane crashes was taking place back in the day.
Yeah.
These ganja fields, we know about this stuff.
Yes. So I have this alien who looked like Margaret Thatcher, crash landing and DNA clone and all kinds of. So I really have no model. I don't know. Is this connecting with other readers? And here was this big time critic, totally trashed it, right? In World Literature Today. But he didn't stop there. He then wrote a little booklet, chaplet, and it was chapbook, and was selling on Amazon for a while. So he didn't stop with the review there. He then published a book, self-published a book, to make sure I would never write again. So and it almost worked because for about 6 to 9 months, I couldn't write.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Geoffrey, this story is mind-boggling. What? Wow. What got you going again?
Well, I think it was some words from Dennis, if I remember correctly. And I was like, all right, Jeff. But you know, this is what you want to do with your life, right?
Nice.
And I remember I did an interview with Bob, where Bob said, how he had faced certain things. And it was like, and Bob said, it's like I want to take up my arms against some guys, But just say, cool, my youth. And I said, all right. I would go on writing. And little by little, I got back into writing. And it was like, this is the thing that you love to do.
Yes.
And in between there, while I was teaching literature, I was teaching units on Joseph Campbell, and one of the most that I tried to pass on to my students was this whole idea of following your bliss, following the thing that animates you, following the thing that brings you joy.
Yes.
And I knew that writing brought me joy.
Yes.
And if I was going to stay sane, sane. I use that word on
you use that word on the advice.
yes. So if I was to remain sane, then I'd have to continue writing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a marvelous story. Christine Reynolds, who is tuning in, saying, thank you so much for the encouragement about, getting writing again, writing your writing, and don't stop, because people will discourage you. They will, Andreen Bonner says, Collector General, when we have that in common. So you and Andreen, we have to go to memory lane. Do you see how deep I took him down memory lane just now?
Yeah, I didn't know that with Andreen. Our paths, my path with Andreen, crisscross so many ways, because he was with Dennis and
yes.
Andreen, blessings.
Marlene Banlin-Tide from out of St. Vincent says, wow, cute story. Christine Reynolds, as I was saying before, says, great advice. I
yes.
no longer compare myself to others in my painting and my writing. Cheryl.
There's a meme going around Facebook right now. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh yeah. The thief of all creativity too. Hey Cheryl, how you doing? Good to see your face in the place. All our creatives are here. We have 𝗪𝗓𝗓, who is out of here, to one of the professors we have at the Michael University College. And Andreen says, Mama was a teacher. Dad was an accountant. Yes, indeed. Now, when we talk about the whole business of surviving rejection, especially in your first endeavor, it didn't stop you from becoming a prolific writer. And you sent me this wonderful article about permission to shine, permission.
Yes.
So let us flesh that out a little bit more. And you share with our audience what the context of that link is about. And I'll drop the link here.
Right.
In our show.
Well, it was written by Anton Nimblett on a blog that I kept, well, I still have it as a sort of historical record of all of the literary events and things that were happening in South Florida here, and some in Jamaica and around the Caribbean from about 2000, 2008, which is when I started blogging, until now. So that is like a permanent record of everything. And I would have, writers drop in and write their notes. That particular blog was written by Anton Nimblett, who wrote this book, Sections of an Orange. And he wrote a guest post for it. And what he was saying, again, one of the things, when I started the blog, like the question is like who is you? Who is you for come
Start a
right?
blog.
Yeah, you know. So that was the first thing I had to get
Now,
over in my mind.
right.
You know, who is you for come do this? You know. And so Anton and I got into this whole, you know, the sort of, it will bring me back eventually to Garvey, but the whole colonial mindset that, you know, you are nobody, you are nothing, you know, and you really have no right, you know, to speak after me, sir, you know, that whole thing. And we really have to, I mean, I still feel it now, even when I'm now promoting my new blog over at Vocal, you know, to self-promote, because, and here's the thing, Americans do it all the time.
All day, all long. All day, all night. You know, I share this with you. When I'm doing my public speaking coaching, and if I happen to have a Jamaican client, this is what we have to discuss first and foremost. We have to discuss, like I told one of my clients recently, she had a conference to go to, do a speech presentation amongst all these PhD persons. And I said to her, but you are the expert in your field. And I showed her how. Jamaican. As a matter of fact, she's a fellow immaculate girl too. And I said, but you are the expert in your field. You're talking to the people who are benefiting from your programs. You know things that these PhD people will never know.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that as Jamaicans, as Caribbean people, we do experience the sense of we're not quite good enough.
Yes.
Not quite good enough. And that's a huge lie.
Yes.
That is a huge lie, because here you are wanting to be recognized by the American publication people, publishers, and they're telling you no. And then you do publish and somebody comes up and says, that's rubbish. Come on. I've never seen more rubbish on streaming TV than I do nowadays, and they're making money. So all art is valid. All art matters. It's who is it's interpreting by who it is for.
Yes.
And it is important that our Geoffrey Philp writes and leaves these texts behind, because we have a 5-year-old coming up with some similar ideas. And one day he's going to take up, or she's going to take up, that book of poetry, that book of stories.
Well, not even the book of, in September, if everything works out, Jah willing, right? The book called My Name is Marcus, which is a graphic novel for children about the life of Marcus Garvey.
Yes.
Should be.
Looking forward.
We not play when it comes to Marcus, you know.
Okay, we're not ramp at all. We're not ramp. I dropped the link for that Marcus writings that you shared earlier with me in the chat of this conversation. Check it out, people. I'm inviting you to check it out. Let's now jump to, you know, there's so much to talk with you about, Geoffrey, I tell you, outside lot. You know, let's now talk about Archipelagos that you had a reading for on this past weekend.
Right.
And so much was inspired, yes, by Bob Marley, and why you're such a fierce defender and proponent of Marcus Garvey and his ideals, and, you know, what the legacy he left behind for us, and how you handle it in your writing, in your literature, you know, in what you have to offer. Because when you go to do your readings, you know, just get up and read. You're explaining the background of how your work has come forth.
Well, what? So while I was with Jamaica, you know, this is back in Jamaica, man like flipping, you know, would come through, and that was where I got my first introduction to Marcus Garvey, because like I said, man like flipping would you know, you'd hear the news go one way and flipping would just give another version to think about. And it's like, oh, so it's not just newspaper and television, you know, going tell you the truth, because them coming with their own version. So from then, I was kind of introduced to a living example of thinking outside the box, you know. So by the time I come to America now, you know, I'm trying to be a writer, and I'm going to a PhD program and everything else. And so I'm there, and I leave off Marcus Garvey for a while. So I'm in graduate school, and my professor, Dr. 𝗪𝗪𝗧𝗘, trusted me a lot. And I think he wasn't feeling well or something like that. And he said, Jeff, I need you to prepare this class for me. It's at 6 o'clock. This is like 12 o'clock in the day. And who is it on? Marcus Garvey. I know very little about Marcus Garvey, but I'm teaching an undergraduate student. So for the next like 5 hours, I'm just like, Marcus Garvey, Marcus Garvey, Marcus Garvey. And so that was the first like turning point. I'm like, okay, all right, Marcus Garvey.
What a serendipitous occasion.
Yeah, because I had to teach it.
Yes, wow.
So I had to teach it. So I taught the class and everything, and then it dropped off again. And then it picked up back with Obama. I have his book somewhere back here. We're on page, I think, 191. He talks about the influence of Garvey. So I was actually in the exoneration campaign for gathering signatures for the exoneration of Marcus Garvey. And down here in South Florida, along with, you know, stalwarts like Don Rico Ricketts, Ijabulani Tafari, Priest Dougie, Miguel Murphy, we collected 11,000 signatures, and we turned them into our representative, Frederica Wilson. And we joined forces with Dr. Julius Garvey, and we delivered over 100,000 signatures to President Obama, which he declined. But so now I was now deep into the movement to exonerate Garvey. And it was while doing that I realized how little my fellow Jamaicans and fellow Caribbean people knew about Garvey. So that was when I started this educational program of teaching people about Marcus Garvey. Yes. And in fact, there was one period of my life while I was at Miami-Dade Community College that I got a death threat. In fact, I was on the police watch for 2 weeks. I would get up in the morning, tell the police that, okay, I am now leaving home. Police car would be there. I'd drive to school. He would follow me up to my office, all right? And then when I was leaving, I didn't call the police again. They'd come, provide me with an escort, and drive behind me all the way home. So those are scary times because this person threatened me and my family, you know? And I was like, you know, boy, Jeff, you should have cool with this Garvey business, you know? But anyway, I went on and I kept on doing the research, and we came up with a slogan, respect Garvey, which is now, you know, turned into a permanent web presence, respectgarvey.com.
Yes.
But after reading through the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, we came up with some core principles that ideas that are repeated over and over and over again in Garvey. These are redemption.
Yes.
Education.
Yes.
Self-reliance. Purpose. Entrepreneurship or economics. Community and tradition.
Yes.
So that's how we get the respect Garvey, right? Yes. And so throughout the years, I've always relied on that little acronym there to because and one of the reasons why we chose it is not only because it contains Garvey's ideas, but also it is within the Jamaican vernacular with a respect,
right?
You know, so it would be it's a naturally catchy slogan to to say respect Garvey.
Yes.
But again, before we launched anything, like before we launched the exoneration campaign, and before I launched Respect Garvey, I got the blessing from Julius Garvey, you know, because again, you can't just run off and say, boy, I'm gonna do this. And don't go to the elders who have been there from time. So when Julius Garvey blessed, I have a picture of him when I'm giving him the 11,000 signatures. Kept on and kept on. So that's why it has now become a permanent. It has now become a permanent thing, a web presence. Respect Garvey, and the site is totally livicated to things about Garvey. Just Garvey. We not deal with nothing else. We just deal with Garvey.
So we have dropped that link there, and we're gonna reshare that link on all the other relevant Geoffrey Philp pages that we have here on this Why I Write platform. This is a perfect point after you describing the genesis of the Respect Garvey movement and the live website that any one of you can go to learn more and share more about Garvey. I think this is a perfect point to ask you a cultural, political question, which is this. What are your thoughts on Florida's politicians to ban the book by our inaugural poet, the young lady?
Yes.
How should we as writers and literary bearers feel about that?
If they go to the vocal page, and I would like for them, anybody who's listening to this, to subscribe to that the vocal link. In fact, I've written about it. I've written about the book banning. One, and in that I talk about, there's a whole history of this. And when Adolf Hitler was coming to power, and he wrote about my struggle, or Mein Kampf, as he calls it, he congratulated the American government for its policies of excluding certain races from gaining citizenship. And he praised them for their slaughter of the millions of Redskins. So in fact, Adolf Hitler took his line from his admiration of the Jim Crow laws and turned them into what became the Nuremberg laws, which was essentially to strip Jews who had lived, some families who had lived in Germany from as far back as 800 AD or CE, right? To strip them of their rights. So they essentially became stateless in their own country. This has been the policy of America from Jim Crow going onwards, for African Americans to be stateless. I begin by talking about James Baldwin saying, to be an African American is to be an African without memory and an American without privileges. So this is not something haphazard that is happening within the country. This is a deliberate response to the Black Lives Matter movement, because again it is an attempt to silence Black people, and it's working. But guess what? The place where I gave the reading yesterday, Books and Books, they have now joined forces with the Congregational Church down in Coral Gables, and I will be there tomorrow. They're giving away free copies of Amanda Gorman's book and Tony Medina's book and all of the other banned books here in Florida. They're giving them away free. And I'm getting one for myself. I'm getting one for my daughter who lives in Atlanta.
There you go. There you go. You see, as literary artists, as writers, as authors, we have quite a bit of responsibility, and we can pick and choose what our issues are going to be, what we're going to stand up for, what we're going to allow. The first thing you have to stand up for is for yourself and accept that, yes, you are valid and valuable with the work and the thoughts that you have to offer. Secondly, as you delve deeper into the growth of becoming a writer and author, you can't watch no face and you can't make nothing stop you. You have to learn your craft, learn your process. And this comes in so many different ways for individuals. And I like what you have said about, you know what, if this is something I love to do, I'm going to do it because it really makes me happy and I'm going to follow my bliss. You
Yes.
followed your bliss so much that you now have given us Archipelagos with a nice, bright red, green, and gold colors, looking like ripple effects of Iron Lion Zion. It looked like, I look at the book, that if I don't get shock, good shock,
Yes.
by contents, then boys like me not read the book. How
Right.
did you come to Archipelagos and why Archipelagos?
Well, all right. That again is another long story. Anyway, it started initially at the University of Miami with Patricia Saunders inviting me to come and read from my novel, Garvey's Ghost. I went there and I read sections from Garvey's Ghost. And then I listened to Elizabeth Parvisani, and she gave me she gave a lecture on the levels of plastic pollution in the Caribbean. So that was really my big eye opener. But then I became friends with a woman named Monique Rafi. She has written this wonderful novel, The Mermaid of Black Conch. It's a book I would recommend everybody to read. She commissioned the poem. She commissioned the poem for me to write. They were calling it the green book, like the green issue of Writer's Mosaic from England. So they were going to, they said they were going to pay me and everything else. And I was like, okay. And I don't like writing poems under pressure, you know, because it's like, boy, you're gonna flop, you know, you're gonna flop. Anyway,
again.
so I went, all right. So I was there and I thought about it. And in my head, I heard a line from Derek Walker that I've always liked. After this sentence, rain will begin. It was always such a powerful line. And I changed it in my mind. I said, after this sentence, a flood will begin. And I was off and running. This doesn't happen very often, you know. Robert Frost says, the first line of a poem is a gift. The rest is work, you know. So I sat there and I finished writing that poem in 4 hours, right? But here's, again, you know, where the self-doubt comes in. I finished writing the poem and it was, you know, and I was so shocked. She gave me 3 weeks to finish it. I finished the thing in 4 hours, right? But I'm still 7 books out, you know, right? I'm still so unsure. I sat on it for 2 weeks because I was like, is this thing, will it work? I sent it off to her and she was just like, this is fantastic. Da, 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 da. So that was how that poem came to life. And then Patricia Saunders commissioned another poem for me, which became The Archangel's Trumpet. I've written about both of them. I've written about most of these, again, on the vocal link. If you fish around, you'll see why I wrote Archipelagos and the whole long story.
Yes.
And I have a couple more Garvey stories that I'm working on and Archipelagos stories that I'm working on. So I eventually, you know, had enough poems in there And then I started to put the whole thing together. And I was actually going to enter a chapbook competition because 7 years I haven't put out a book. I'm like, boy, Jeff, what you do with your life? You know? You know? Yeah, not one, you know.
Not God for you. What's really happening here?
So, and in fact, I had submitted a book before that to my publisher in England, and they rejected it. So, you know, that is like, all right. So anyway, so I was going to enter it into a chapbook competition, you know, and I was going to call it Archipelagos because from all the feedback that I'm getting from Monique and everybody else, all right, the poem good, all right. So I kept trying because the chapbook is only 25 pages. I kept trying to put it down, you know, into 25 pages. And it was like, no, but I have to put in this, till it got to where it is now. And I was like, all right, well, I guess you could chop it in two and call this Archipelagos 1, and then you have another book you call Archipelagos 2. I was like, nobody from especially Jamaica went by that, because I'm, why you write the book already? You know, you come give a version. So,
Yeah, come get them the dub side.
The dub side. So I said, all right. So I put the book together, and I sent it off to my publisher in England, and he loved it, and the rest is history.
I love it. So you did eventually find a publisher who would want to publish your work?
No, the same old publisher, People Tree, who have been with now for what, 40 years?
I love that, because I see some of your titles on Amazon and folk. If you want to check out Geoffrey's page, it's 𝗪𝗪𝗬101.com. Just go online and you see all of his listings, and you can get a link to his Amazon page that features the titles such as 12 Poems and A Story for Christmas, Marcus and the Amazons,
Yes.
Florida Bound. I can't pronounce this word. Zango music.
That is Shango music.
Shango music.
But that is the cover was actually designed by a Babalao who lives in Brazil. And so to keep true to him and his vision, because at that time I was delving into West African mythology, and I shouldn't call it mythology, West African religion, cosmology, and I was reading a lot about the Orishas, and so that was how I came to call that collection Shango music. Maybe I should have gone with you know, the popular spelling, which is S-A-N, but I like the X, you know, with how Brathwaite plays with that whole X thing, and you know how the Muslims here in America, you know, you're Malcolm X, and so I like that whole thing with Shango music, and so that, and throughout Archipelagos also, I talk a lot about the Orishas as sort of elemental forces, and going back, you know, on the front piece, the epigraph is with Bob, when Bob said, you know, the earth vex, and the poignant thing about that, Bob was doing this. Bob said that during the survival tour, right? That is the last album that Bob put out under his management. So from 1979 to 80, Bob saw it coming. You know, and said the earth vex. And we're seeing now how the earth, we're seeing it in real time, how the earth vex. And so I had to put that in. And it was not until I read this book by Amitav Ghosh called The Nutmeg's Curse that really, this was, a lot of the poems are written during the lockdown. When I started to go back and read, you know, the classics of Black literature. I'm talking, you know, Toni Morrison, I'm talking about Maya Angelou, I'm talking about Amy Césaire, talking about Frantz Fanon. I'm talking about, you know, all of these books, all of these books, The Wretched of the Earth.
Yes.
And so out of that, I started to write these poems and tie in everything that I'd learned, and especially in the Nutmeg's Curse, he makes it. I would recommend this to anybody. If you want like a background, read that book and see how he makes the connections between colonialism and climate justice, which again now brings me back once you said justice, you're back to Marcus Garvey.
Right. Yes, there's no escaping it.
No.
Some of your other titles include Grandpa Sidney's and Nancy's Stories, Hurricane Center, and of course, Archipelagos. I want to make a little comment and maybe you can expand on this. Why does it seem that many of us in the African diaspora, there's a lot of fear surrounding African religions like that which you mentioned and you drew inspiration from in writing your stories for the current Archipelagos? Why do you think that there's this fear of our Orishas and or, you know, Shango and all these other things, and we dismiss them as duppy story or heathen? What are your thoughts on this, and how can we benefit from the knowledge of these spiritualities today?
Well, there's a saying, you know, we have mythologies and they have religion, you know. We lost so much when our ancestors were kidnapped from Africa, primarily West Africa. Ways of knowing, ways of seeing, ways of living our life. Rastafari has brought some of it, but even some mansions of Rastafari dismiss the West African religion. Some, not all.
Yes.
Because of its ties to Obia and everything else. I don't look at the Orishas for divination purposes, but I look at them almost as an academic exercise, which is in recognizing that these are elemental forces within what, you know, Carl Jung and all of these other psychologists, depth psychologists have all recognized that we have these impulses. There's, you know, we all start up as innocents, then we move to an orphan stage, then we have the caregivers, we either become caregivers or warriors, then we have destroyers, the lovers, you know, the rulers, you know, there are all of these archetypal forces. This is when I was in graduate school and I was studying Joseph Campbell, the hero with 1,000 faces, which I taught my students, and also The Power of Myth. So within every human being, there are these archetypal forces, right, that are present. Okay. So if we take that as a granted, we look over human history, we see so many poems written to Diana, right? Or we see so many poems written to Venus. The only difference is we don't call her Venus in Africa. We call her Oshun. You know, we don't call him Mars, right? We call him Shango. You know, so in other words, the West African, the West, and if you look through British history and British literature, you know, Dante's Inferno, or you look at, you know, Milton and them talk about Jove and all of these, you know, In other words, wherever humans are, these are the latent archetypes that are within us.
There you go. Yes.
Right? They call him Hermes, the messenger. We call him Anansi.
Yes.
Right? Or we call him 𝗪𝗂𝒬𝒂 or Eshu.
Yes.
Right? So it's recognizing this deeply human forces that are within us. Right? We just happen to call them a different name. Right? But still recognize, recognize that these are real. And what would happen is, and again, this is the whole colonial project to discount anything that is African and to discount anything that is native. This has been going on since from before the Roman time, right? The conquering army would march into a town and they would say, "Who are the leaders here?" And the guy would say, me, right? And I would just say, okay, kill them guys, right? So there goes your institutional memory, right? And I mean, this is things that people at West Point and all of these others study, so that so the first thing that you do is you go into a place, you take it over, you kill all the elders, right? So there goes all of the institutional and national memory. Yeah. And then you start a whole process of indoctrination. Yes. Where you tell them whatever you have is no good. Right? You stamp out the language, you do everything else to make sure that the natives think that nothing they have is good. This is why Garvey could find partnership with the Irish. This is why he called Liberty Hall, because he drew inspiration from the Irish Revolution. What happened in 1916 with De Valera and all of these others, right? He recognizes that the same Irish struggle was the same as the African struggle, and he had these speakers come across to speak in Liberty Hall. Okay. So in fact, for the Irish, they couldn't speak Irish in their own language. Yes. Right? So when you recognize that sort of continuity in oppression, in our cases, it's not Irish or in other places, the speaking of Gaelic, but the British Empire was very consistent in its downpression. It's the same like what happened to the native Indians, for instance, in Canada. Precisely. Yeah. And so what happened is, this is why I have to give thanks to people like Miss Lou, because Miss Lou said, listen, man. In fact, remember one of the first times she recited her poem, and a man over in the corner said, "I that your mother send you to school to go learn." Right? When Miss Lou bust back patois, right? Yes. But again, we're so thoroughly brainwashed into hating ourselves. And from you say we're hating ourselves, you're back to Marcus Garvey again. Right. And you're back with the struggle as an artist, as a literary functionary, proving your worth, proving yourself. And it's like a new singer coming along. No matter tell us, boy, we are singing them the jing bang music for. That's how our reggae started, that the world. Yeah. We are go with that boogie yaga music kind of thing. Yes. We are go with that. And our salsa, and our mental one are go with that the country music there. So there's a lot of unlearning to do and a lot of relearning. So we are happy for writers such as yourself putting the work out and also doing work that is adjacent to your published work that inspires you and fires you up, because I'm feeling your passion all the way up here, and I'm about 400 miles from you, and I'm feeling the passion, Geoffrey, and it makes me take up the mantle also further to again continue to have these conversations with us
because I think it's very important. If we don't have these discussions, we lose too much.
Yes.
We don't understand things. It's the same thing we see in the medical profession, where in a cultural context, someone is feeling one way or another, as we were talking about before. Yet in the Eurocentric context, they say, you're mad, you're crazy,
Yeah.
you haven't won any kind of enlightenment. You haven't come, you lock up your hair and you're gone trod in the mountains for days and you come back down. Or the same thing Moses did though, but them tell us that Moses is white and him never black. But you know what? That would start a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
In wrapping up, Geoffrey, we know we have a graphic novel coming from you. We're excited to see that.
September.
Yes, September. And September is just around the corner. By the time you blink 2 times, September is going to be here. So I want you to come back so we can talk about the graphic novel. And we can talk about the other things that are going to take place between now and September, for real, for real.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
In wrapping up, are there any other words that you want to leave with us on this Why I Write platform for today?
I would say, if you're out there and you're having any doubts about your own writing, take heart, right? If you really, really want to do this thing, as I say in the piece I wrote, that's there on the vocal link. No make no guy come tell you say I can't write.
You hear that?
No make no guy come tell you say, how you to come do this? Like Bob said, only the birds have their wings. But you have to believe, say you have wings, or else you sit down on the limb there and you just, why everybody else can fly? How come me can't fly?
As you say fly, I just want to hear Malachi 𝗪𝗪𝗧𝗧, who said just putting him head in for a little minute because him have a flight to catch.
Yeah, man. Good Adrian Malachi. That me Malachi come from Jamaica School of Drama.
See there.
Jamaica School of Drama. That's how me meet Malachi, and then come buck him up when come America. I mean, Malachi I do enough things, and Malachi right now on fire because I'm over there in California, and him have the nomadic tour down in Jamaica. We're taking poetry to the youth them in the school. So yeah, man, big up Malachi every time.
Malachi, we need to talk. Christine Reynolds, daughter of Capo Reynolds.
Yeah, man.
Is healing your pain now.
Or bun sage every morning.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
When you up on stage, I'm glad to see Christine over there.
Clean out Facebook every morning.
Cut and clear, man. I love it. Go on do your thing. Go on do your thing. Go on do your thing, Christine. We need you. So, our community is growing and we find strength in numbers. More power to you, Geoffrey. I'm so glad you were able to come and sit down and reason with us from the heart, from Mona days, Mona Prime.
Yeah.
This is good. This is different. We're looking forward to hearing more, looking forward to seeing you in the real, in flesh. Thank you so much for being with us on Why I Write. Thank you. Thank you.
Give thanks.
Walk good and take it. Tatlin Oliver signing out for another in the series, Why I Write. Thank you so much for sharing. If you love this interview, all you got to do is just like and share. Thank you. Have a great week.